Right now, there are 4 beating hearts on this stage. It might be a record for TEDx speakers and most definitely a new experience for us, entering into somewhat uncharted territories.
We didn't plan for this talk to be about the existentialism behind choices like this. In fact, it was supposed to be a talk about finding agency through our daily work in the wake of the ongoing planetary crisis. But it was somehow inevitable to not speak about this very obvious thing that was turning our worlds around and adding a whole new lens to the topics that we have been dedicating our professional career to.
And as we were outlining the original script, it started to sink in that the story we wanted to share was now another. It was the story we were living, a story of fears and vulnerability, the complexities of uncertainty, and the paradox of hope.
You see, for the past 6 years, we've been working together to engage people and businesses to take meaningful action on the ongoing planetary crisis through this project that we have named Doing the Most Honest Job. We have made dozens of op-eds, podcasts, and lectures trying to find hope in that very act of doing something and using our platforms for action. But this also means that we've been diving deep into the science of all the things that is not going the right way. So when I, on a daily basis, have to face the stark realities of today, a question grows more and more present. Is this a world I should still decisively bring children into?
And it's needless to say that the question also resonated with me when I found myself in the same situation, feeling all this love and excitement, but also some concern. Because knowing what we know about the state of things, is this still a good choice in a world that is facing so much turmoil and uncertainty?
Because it's no longer just a climate crisis. It's a perfect storm of geopolitical instability, democratic backlash, and ecological disaster. If we look at the Planetary Health Check, which is like a science-based diagnosis of the Earth system by Potsdam Institute, we are now pushing our planet outside the safe operating space for humanity. 6 out of our 9 planetary boundaries are already crossed, and 7 out of the 16 Earth system tipping elements is at risk. According to Professor Johan Rockström, who is also the director of this center, he says that our window of opportunity to really hinder these tipping points are closing fast. In other words, this is not temporary. Scientists are now talking about a permacrisis. That means that we are risking getting to a stage of permanence in this situation.
And the evidence of our impact on the planet has become clear. In the Anthropocene, the period of time in which humanity has become a planetary force of change, human population growth has become a key factor in the economic and the technological activities impacting the Earth's biosphere. A 2021 study published in Nature highlights how human population growth exacerbates greenhouse gas emissions, environmental degradation, and biodiversity loss, in turn intensifying climate change.
And the effects are disproportionate. Developing countries and marginalized communities will be hit the hardest with the detrimental consequences of global warming, and thus continuing this inequality that we are already having. With our current trajectory, some places will become uninhabitable, a forecast carrying, of course, grave humanitarian concerns.
This interconnectedness and our growing awareness of it is at the heart of what has been referred to as the climate reproduction nexus. And according to Professor Heather Hauser, who studies the intersection of climate and reproduction, a growing number of young people are starting to ask whether it's okay to have children in the midst of crisis, worrying about their impact, but also how a changing climate might impact future lives.
And with that, it's natural, maybe even just rational, to feel a sense of unease and uncertainty about bringing new life to Earth. Given where we are now, we have to face sitting in the not knowing. What will the quality of life be for future generations? How can I feel safe about introducing new life that will outlive me, knowing that I might not be able to protect him or ensure his well-being?
And it seems this is a worry for more than us. A Pew Research survey published in 2024 found that among US adults aged 18 to 49, only 51% wanted children, down from a staggering 86% in 2003. And out of these, more than a quarter, 26%, cited concerns about the environment, including climate change, as a major factor.
The same is true in research also from Europe. Demography expert Danielle Vinoli surveyed young couples about their thoughts about having children. And a core theme was this uncertainty about the future. Gen Z, for them in particular, climate change is one compounding stressor that now inform their decisions on whether or not to have kids.
And the principle of intergenerational equity argues that we, the current generation, have a moral responsibility to protect the well-being of future generations. But when we do, how do we factor in the hope with all the variables of uncertainty? And perhaps the answer is that we have to accept the complexities and the conflicting feelings that might arise when we search for the intention in one of the most personal choices we as human beings can make.
The paradox of hope is that historically humanity has faced numerous crises, yet we have always brought new life into this world. New life that is also a part of developing our planet. And even though the negative developments seem very prevailing right now, we know that we today have the means and resources to develop for the better. So do we have reasons to think that generations coming after us may be better equipped to tackle these issues, these crises, and be empowered agents of change?
Absolutely, because we have made significant advancements in technology, in social justice and environmental awareness, and the pace of these developments just seem to go faster and faster. Just look at the growth we're seeing in solar power, for example. Together with wind, this power source could supply over 70% of global electricity by 2050. Or look no further than right here in Norway, where new car sales are reaching 100% electric, becoming one of the most efficient climate measures ever implemented in just a decade. So without being extreme techno-optimists here, I think we can say that the potential of solutions that are readily available today provides an immense sense of realistic hope.
At the same time, some of this new technology can also be a huge threat without moral checks and balances. Right now, we see our liberal democracies unraveling, much because of the misinformation and disinformation that we allow through some of these exponential developments within information technology. So how can I trust that we will still base our judgment and our understanding of the world on the science and on truth?
As with everything else, it's up to us and our policymakers to decide whether we use technology for good or if technology will in fact use us. And for policymakers to move, we need people to move first. We know that social movements can evolve so much faster in the future than they have done in the past. And that is for better and for worse. But remember how Me Too created decades worth of change in just a few months. Or you look at how the Youth for Climate movement in South Korea recently won a landmark climate litigation case, forcing the South Korean government to protect the rights of future generations against the dangers of the climate crisis, much due to mobilization on social media. And there are numerous examples like this, but the point is that harnessing this willingness to change can happen so much faster for those being born today than what we grew up with.
And maybe the harsh realities we are now facing will also bring some clarity. With climate, for example, Imagine all the discussions we do not have to have when our new climate reality is right outside our window. Growing up with a clear understanding of the need for adaptation alongside mitigation will instill a very different orientation toward proactive policy change, investment in the right technologies, and improvements in social systems, much faster, hopefully, than we have had so far. All in all, we're talking about another world here, right? Imagine when we were kids, no cell phones, no internet, no social media, and no looming climate crises. The future will look just as different in all aspects as the past looks from where we're standing right now.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe we have to funnel all these different perspectives through a merging lens of systems theory. Because when we look at all these factors all together, it becomes quite evident that we are, in fact, intertwined in something bigger, right?
Yeah, we have to see our modern lives as part of a system that is arguably broken. Our consumption patterns, our economies, both heavily reliant on fossil fuels and finite resources, they're driving this continuous extraction system that will just not work on this finite planet. These are factors that are primarily driven by politics and market dynamics, which is man-made concepts. So my guess is that we would feel different about this choice if we had more hope in our leaders and faith in the possibilities of rapid policy change towards a more functional system.
Yeah. And maybe it's not such a wild guess, Britta. Research published in the Lancet Planetary Health actually finds that climate anxiety and dissatisfaction with government responses are widespread amongst children and youth across the globe, which in turn will impact their daily lives and personal choices. Respondents actually reported greater feelings of betrayal than of reassurance. And this right here, the absence of trust, is at the heart of this issue. The perceived failure by governments to respond to the climate crisis is, in fact, associated with increased distress, which of course will impact how young people will plan their future.
And this inaction extends beyond climate. It also goes for the other challenging questions of today on biodiversity, our ecosystems, inequality, human rights, and the escalation of this disinformation crisis. In some, making it hard to morally justify bringing children into this world for many people around the world, maybe also for some in the audience, and right now, obviously, for us.
So we've now looked at this hard question from a scientific, technological, and systems perspective. But ultimately, answering this question is deeply personal. And we have to ask ourselves, what do I choose to still hope for? How do I embrace that hope? And with what actions do I keep it alive?
I think many of us will still worry about the burden of suffering that our child could face in a turbulent world. But we can also use this fear as a compass and try to steer towards the opportunity to nurture resilience and contribute to positive change. This shouldn't be about guilt, it's about agency. And we have a choice to instill our trajectory into the path that this new life will have. But just like our general hope for a better future, that can never be this naive, inactionable hope, this too needs to be a hardcore blood and sweat and many, maybe the rest of our lives of investment into that hope. Hope in what we believe in, what we think is right, not just for us, but also for the rest of us, right? For the common good.
So whatever we might feel about the choice that we have made, we know that we will have to raise children with the skills, values, and empathies needed to face and address the challenges of the future, contributing to solutions rather than just enduring the crises. And if we manage that, we have in essence equipped them and all of us with the tools needed to challenge the status quo and become resilient individuals that can carry both the burdens, but most importantly, the opportunities of the future.
Passing on this will to change doesn't depend on having children or not, but rather on working for positive change in our diverse roles, be it as caretakers, as leaders, and conscious citizens like yourselves. Ultimately, the world will change not only because of what we do in our lifetime, but also through these new thoughts by the new people who will see a future we have yet to imagine. So in the end, Ida, maybe we have to accept that this paradox will always exist. Bringing new life into crisis is both an act of courage and of responsibility. And maybe in this way, and in this way only, this hope can be carried forward.
So there has been 4 beating hearts on this stage today. And while 2 of them have yet to join us Earthside, we choose to stand here on their behalf. So if we can ask one last thing of you all today, is that you join us in building a world that they and other children can truly live in, not just survive in. Because the future isn't written yet. It's born and it's created, heartbeat by heartbeat, and choice by choice. Thank you.